My name is Peter Gomez, and this morning we're creating some kind of history on the business show, because for the first time we're having a live guest, and it's no ordinary guest. We have the president of what simply used to be the GCCI, the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, but then now the name is longer. Mr. Mohammed Jagana, a good friend of mine, a useful friend of the business community. Jagana, good morning.
Morning, Peter. Thanks for having us.
I used to know it simply as the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, but a few things have since been added on. So what's the full nomenclature now of the institution that you head?
In Gambia, we have the Chamber of Commerce and the Employers Association under one umbrella. So we just decided to add the entire name, call it the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Agriculture and Employers Association. But we're keeping the nomenclature down to GCCI.
Okay, all right. Are we unique in this, or, is this something you saw happen in other countries and you thought, well, it will serve the Gambia equally well as well?
I think also it's relative to our size, and in most of the bigger economies, the Employers Association or Federation is independent from the Chambers of Commerce. And for example, in the French-speaking Francophone countries, the Chambers of Commerce are almost like a wing or an arm of the government, whilst the Employers Federation are the private sector. But in the English system, you normally have an umbrella of different associations and unions. And in Gambia, we do not have that diverse base. So we decided to bring it all under the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Okay. The Ministry of Trade has an employment portfolio, isn't it? It's trade, industry, and employment. So how do the two now work together, the GCCI and MOTI, as I hear people call them?
MOTI basically runs policies for the government and tries to encourage creation of jobs, whilst the Gambia Chamber of Commerce basically invest in our members, invest in the business community to create jobs, to create skills, to develop the economy in tandem with government. So we basically work parallel, like a train track. You need both sides of the track for the train to run successfully.
Absolutely. Well, last year, at some point when we spoke, you had coined a word, all right? An acronym, a speakable acronym, FEAST. Talking about fashion, talking about education, talking about arts, talking about sports, talking about technology. Since then, you seem to have come up with two more acronyms. One is TAP, and the other one is YEF. If we are to start with TAP, Training Apprenticeship Program, what are you aiming to achieve with this new project, undertaking, baby, whatever you want to call it?
It's basically not new. Historically, Gambia had very successful vocational training schools. We had the GCCI.
We used to have the VTC as well.
VTC and those things. But I think over the past couple of years, our focus have moved away from skill-based training, skill centers, to more of service-based. And really, most developing and progressed economies can only progress if there's a skill-based job system.
Is Switzerland not service-based? Malaysia or Singapore, sorry, for a long time, where they're not just providing service and getting billions and billions for it?
There's a lot of skills within that service sector that are included behind the scene. How did Singapore get to build all those nice buildings, those road projects? They created job opportunities for local indigenous Singaporeans who basically developed companies and scaled up over time. Malaysia did the same thing. So is Dubai. They're importing people in that do the work, but there's certain levels of skills that basically trickle down to the indigenous community. And that's what we're trying to encourage here in the chamber. We believe that training apprenticeship program should be able to help young entrepreneurs develop their own business and employ themselves, their friends, and people around them that share the same skills, let's say in the construction industry. For example, somebody like TAF started a major project in the Gambia here before expanding out to Nigeria. And as you can see, building a house required a lot of skills, from a plumber, mason, carpenter, electrician, engineer, surveyor.
So skill and manpower.
Yes, these are the kind of skills that we think that if we encourage young people to be trained into, they can also start their own small, medium-sized businesses across towns, cities, and villages in the Gambia, and hopefully conquer West Africa.
So in terms of, providing training, what's the role of the chamber? Will it work with people who already have the skills to train young men and women who need those skills, who want to go into, those areas of service?
About a year and a half ago, I went around to meet a couple of businesses that I think, in my mind, I might be wrong, but this is something that I always take out and open to the public to discuss, that have certain skills that I think would encourage other people to come in. I wanted to talk to the owners and know exactly how they're doing, what are they doing, what are their challenges. I went to see Malik Mendy, the tailoring. Yeah. I went to see Suigam. I went to see Saho Job. I went to Pristine Consulting. I went to Baker's Dozen. I went to different businesses and spoke to them and understood exactly what their challenges. And most of them highlighted the issue that they basically find it difficult to employ young Gambians because they do not want to go through the apprenticeship program. Today, if you read about Boeing and some of the most successful engineering companies in the world, apprenticeship is a key success in their employment and retention. But here in Gambia, we have a perceived notion of apprenticeship.
What is that notion, that perceived
That's
notion?
what I'm about to get to. Apprenticeship as a low-end starting point. But this is something that I think Mustafa Njai of Tough Construction did mention in his speech at the GCCI annual dinner gala, that he went through a skill-based apprenticeship program, which has helped him get to where he is today.
Okay. So that's the tap. We'll come back and then we'll talk about the other, well, for me it's a new, acronym, YEF. You're listening to The Business Show, and we're coming to you live on Westcoast Radio with Mr. Mohamed Jagana, the president of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'll just call it GCCI for, ease of speaking. And on ideas about how to improve the business sector in the Gambia and create opportunities, especially for those who need those opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, let's now talk about, the new invention for me as well, YEF, Youth Entrepreneurship Funding, is it?
Yes, Peter, it's kind of not new, but what we want to do is we want to make it more entrepreneurial, because what we realized that one of the main fundamental challenges of starting business or doing business in the Gambia is access to financing, and clearly the banks would not want to finance or bankroll a project with shareholders' funds when they're not sure how successful that project is. The risk aversion for banks is a challenge. So what we're trying to do is to develop a scheme which has been done in Nigeria and other countries successfully, where the banks or providers of financing would be able to sponsor or finance young entrepreneurs, have proper structures, have proper books, guide them, mentor them, so that they can be built up into successful businesses. And
banks have done this in Nigeria?
Yes, there's basically a law where microfinance and banks are allowed to do it with a certain percentage of their profits.
Okay.
But however, there's a give and take side. Most countries that do this would allow the banks or the microfinance or the financial institutions to have a tax break on their investment. So
what are the chances of that happening here?
Well, at the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to work on a project that would increase our tax base, increase the number of people or businesses that contribute to social security. So it's just like you want to have a mango tree. You need to grow the seeds, water it. The chances of watering the first day doesn't mean that you'll eat the mango. You'll have to wait for the long-term investment. And I think we would be able to convince government and other stakeholders that in the long run, this should be something that would help create more businesses, fund more businesses, who would create more jobs in this country, who would create more wealth and contribute both to the tax base and to the Social Security pension scheme that we have in the country.
I just heard you say a moment ago, unless I probably misheard you, that we need to look at ways to, broaden or create a bigger tax base. It's not every day that you hear a businessman talk about, raising the tax levels because... So what are you driving at?
No, I'm not saying raising the tax levels, but the tax base means the number of people or contributors towards the tax basket.
Okay.
Normally, government needs funding, and part of this funding would come from taxes.
Some of us in business, that's what we complain about. At the
how much of it, in terms of burden, how do you spread the tax burden? You need to create more jobs so that people would contribute more. You need to create more wealth, so that wealthier people can pay more taxes. You need to create more businesses so that those businesses and entrepreneurs would also develop a channel that would create resources for a tax-based economy.
Now, of course, the YEF targets the youth, but how much enthusiasm is there in our youths, to go into the business sector? Because for years and years and years, whenever, awards were given out for, youth entrepreneurs, I mean, it's been the same Mohamed Jazz and the same Papa Yusuf Njais and, the Os Dumbbells who can't be youths forever. So, I mean, how much interest is there in, young Gambian people to go into business?
I mean, today at the Chamber, during the awards, we basically met very interesting young entrepreneurs. I can mention some
go ahead,
of
yes.
them that we discussed. And what we're doing, we should be thankful to TAF. He created this initiative for us to have a private dinner after the Chamber of Commerce Dinner Awards to basically talk to some of the young entrepreneurs that were selected or nominated but did not get to win the awards.
Oh, okay.
And it was interesting to see some of the ideas and businesses they came up with. For example, there's this entrepreneur called Nefatu Jai who's doing swimwear, Tiga.
Swimwear?
Swimwear from wax.
Interesting.
Handcrafted swimwear. You have Aisha Dabo, who is doing a wonderful line of young boys and girls dresses made to European quality, made in the Gambia.
Really?
She's currently featured at the Gambia Chamber of Commerce Trade Fair at the stadium, Aishat. Then there's this interesting character, Malik. Malik has started a business that provides energy solutions, Africa Energy Solutions. So it was very interesting to listen to him. And you have Augustus Prom.
Green
Jr.
energy?
Well, it's a mixture of green energy and also sustaining your existing energy system and providing you with more efficient energy channels. Then you have hibiscus, which is started by, ambiscus, which is started by Augustus Prom, which basically is a brick saving scheme that allows you to basically buy bricks towards building your house.
So you don't have to go through the laborious process and sometimes expensive because
of dealing with all these people trying to build your house.
So you just know that you need X number of bricks and you go and buy them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're very interesting young people that are interested in doing business. But I think the biggest challenge we have is our notion of business. I remember a couple of years ago when Mrs. Elizabeth Renner, my former English teacher at St. Augustine's,
my former teacher as well, literature,
called me up to Mrs. Ndao to give a speech to a class. I told them, who is the most successful businesswoman in the Gambia? I mean, they were like all looking around. So I had two people in mind, Harriet Ndao, who won the Lifetime Achievement Awards at the Chamber, and Musikeba Drame. So some guy at the back of the class raised his hand and said, Mrs. Ndao. They started laughing.
Mrs. Ndao was a teacher.
Yeah, but teaching is business.
That's what I'm saying.
Education is business.
Of course it is.
So
of course it is.
That's the whole idea.
And you'll highlight that point when we get on to the third component of our discussion today. So that's TAP for you, Training Apprenticeship Program, and YEF, Youth Entrepreneurship Funding. We'll now move on to the third component, which is feast. What's the idea behind feast? It's good to have a feast, isn't it? But feast not in the sense that people know feast to be. You're trying to promote fashion or rather give, more prominence to fashion, education, arts, sports, and technology in this country?
Peter, to me, what really entails around feast is basically also to celebrate. Because what happens is, what I tell people, using technology, you can do or have a fashion business that your market is beyond the borders of Gambia. Today, the example I gave earlier, Tiga, who's doing the swimwear, has a lot of feedback on her Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram page. She's getting clients all over the world inquiring about her business. I mean, she's a small, single business that has come up with this idea, but using the technology platform that is very affordable and cheap, well, subject to proper internet access, which can be a challenge in the Gambia.
Exactly.
But the whole concept is to have entrepreneurs and young businesses to look at fashion as a business, to look at education as a business. Historically, Gambia, we have a very competitive advantage in terms of our education system. And today, you can sit, I know people that are in Europe that have their ustaz in Senegal using Skype to deliver Quranic lessons. So you don't have to move around to be able to get your audience. The Khan Academy is very popular. It's based out of the US. Was started because Khan had to help his niece, who was across a different state, to do maths. He realized that this is a future for a lot of people to be trained using technology. Today is one of the most popular deliveries of education on the web, Khan Academy. You can check it out. Then arts and culture are traditionally restricted to a limited number of people. You have to either go to the museum or go to the art show to access it, or go to a musical show. Today with YouTube and all these other platforms, you can deliver your show to millions of people. You can sell your music to millions of people. You are not restricted by borders anymore. So technology is something that really helps those businesses. Then you come to sports. I'm not a particular sports fan compared to you and the guys that support Liverpool, Arsenal, and that stuff. What you realize is when you look at most of those football games, I don't look at football. I look at the number of dollars people spend, use, or access per second. And today, sport is one of the biggest businesses in the world.
Yeah.
And what is FIFA and all these clubs doing?
During the time of the credit crunch, the global crisis, I mean, this was the only area untouched. In fact, rather than go down, it was going up.
Absolutely. People go out to spend money. There's huge advertisement budgets. But all of this, there's huge technology behind it. Today, you can basically sit on your iPhone or a Samsung phone with a proper internet access. And I think that is something that really we need to encourage in this country, to allow people to have fast-speed internet access. You can basically watch a live football game.
Is that why you're stressing the word proper? You're saying proper internet access.
Yes, proper. I mean, in some countries, when you're on the internet, it feels like, you're on a rocket.
Yeah.
Here, we do have challenges with the internet, and I think this is something that we need to tell Pura, hey, this is a challenge, because it's an opportunity to create jobs. Businesses can be in Gambia servicing people all over the world, creating revenue, creating wealth, creating income, even creating more youth employment by using a technological gateway that we have access to deliver their services.
Give me, more examples of businesses that have embraced, the advances in technology to promote themselves. You gave the example of this lady who is doing swimwear.
Tiga.
Apart from her, who else is making, use of the internet to grow their business?
In Gambia, people are a little bit too shy away from the internet, but I've seen some of these young businesses.
Why do you think that is? Is it a question of affordability, or does it have to do with some of the frustrations you just highlighted here? It takes you almost a whole day just to load one page.
Probably that's a challenge. So that's why I said if we have proper fast-speed internet access, it would allow more people to come up with more businesses that can be delivered through technology, create more wealth, create more job, expand our tax base, help develop the nation. So these are some of the things that we just need to look at and discuss in detail.
The banking sector, you would say, definitely has to embrace technology, because there's no other way out. It's the only way for them. But if you look around as well, we have so many real estate agencies springing up. Would you say they are harnessing the potential of the internet to grow their businesses? Or is it because of, the internet that we have so many real estate agencies now?
Well, I mean, some of these businesses, to me, is like a step. There's a lot of real estate agencies, but some of them are moving away from real estate into development. Some of them would move away from development into estate. Mm-hmm. And we hope some of them will also move away from estate development to management and financing and get to the stage of where TAF has got into. I think TAF has basically redefined the mindset of people in real estate and real estate development. And also, talking about technology, TAF and his business, TAF Africa Holding, use a lot of technology to deliver and service and talk to their clients. And I think that we need to emulate that from his side and see that. Talking about the banks are a little bit too traditional for my liking in terms of delivery of services through technology. Fine, we have some of these banks that are providing internet access and that stuff. But there's no e-channel in terms of you wanting to buy a product. You sit in your house, use your local debit card issued by a local bank that a local supermarket would basically accept. You basically have to get out of your house, drive to the supermarket, struggle, go to the ATM or go and borrow cash somewhere when the banking system is not working. So these are the kind of things that we need to encourage.
Absolutely.
That would create more jobs.
We're quickly running out of time, Jagana, unfortunately, just when the discussion was, really beginning to become more and more interesting. Now, these three, TAP, YEF, Feast, are grounded on, our youthful population, right? But what's the biggest challenge to this? If you say, well, this is possible because the greater majority of our population is young, what's the threat, to TAP being successful, YEF being successful, Feast being successful?
I think it's all like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's interrelated. But the biggest challenge on all of this is basically government policy, access to finance, and mentorship. These are the key challenges that is affecting the youth for them to understand.
Are they surmountable?
Yes.
Okay.
If people can climb Mount Everest, anything is surmountable.
Mohamed Jagana, President of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, was our special guest on the Business Show. Mohamed, thank you very much for coming.
Peter, thanks. Right. It's a pleasure.